right, I'm here today with Hal Keene. Hal, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. In my opinion, you're one of the best promoters in the country, and I think a lot of people can learn some things from you.
It's always a fun time. We look forward to it every year. It's it's a staple in my community, and made a lot of good friendships over the last few years. And my event seems to get bigger and bigger every year.
It does. And so, is this the culmination of your year's work, or is it the beginning when you have your event?
Well, 5 years ago, this last was my fifth annual my barbecue. So if I go back in time, we were trying to raise money for a youth football program. I talked to Brian Coleman. He said, "Hey, kind of in the barbecue thing, steak's starting to take off. Why don't you try a steak event?" So I did, and I had it at my ballpark, kind of a close knit. I think I had 18 teams that day.
Okay.
They grilled, they smoked ribs and chicken wings as ancillaries, and we had a single steak. So we had a car show on the football field, and I got to give props to Coleman. He actually come up with a barbecue name because I wanted to have a car show and a cook-off. Um, and it ran well, minus the weather. As you've heard the stories, that night before, I was ready to throw the towel in. It almost ran the car show out. The cook teams were getting stuck in our baseball fields.
Oh,
It
wow.
was it was a nightmare. But if I've learned anything in this steak world is crap's going to happen. The unexpected is going to happen. You got to roll with it. You can't get down. You just keep on moving. The cook teams understand it's always not going to be perfect, but yeah, my barbecue, I have had my fifth annual, and I'm working on the sixth now. I
Great.
have had some other November type events like I'm having this year,
Hmm.
but as far as my barbecue, I call it my baby. We
Good.
are going on the sixth annual.
Well, you do a great job on it. So, do you have a team that helps you with this, or is it just you?
I work on it myself
Hmm.
almost every week of the year. I make myself a list. It's kind of like the coach that wins the Super Bowl. He, he's thinking about next season, next week. You enjoy it for a minute, but mentally I've already got raffle prizes that have been donated that I'll hold in my garage until next year. Um, and if I could give any advice to any promoters is just having a steak cook is not going to make you a lot of money.
Hmm.
Um, People have this, even in my community, they're like, "Hey, I want to do one of those because it's such a good fundraiser." It's not how it works. Um, it's a lot more to it than just filling out a piece of paper, sending it in, paying your $600, and then hoping for the best. If that's all you do, you got a long road ahead of you as far as a true fundraiser.
For sure. Yeah, it's the things around it that help build it up and make it bigger. And
Right.
you've got some of the things you've got there. You have a car show. I
Yep.
believe you guys sell food.
Yep. I'm fortunate enough to have mine at a what we call the hidden gem. It's a nice RV park
It
in the
is.
middle of nowhere. The only downfall to my van is for the hotel stairs is it's 35 to 40 minutes to the nearest hotel. So the cook trailers and the RVs are a big hit. A lot of people have started renting them, and
Mhm.
I usually locate those for the most of the cook teams that need it. I handle all that. They just come show, pay their money, and everything's taken care of. But just the venue I use is great, um, and people like coming down. I've had some cook teams that have cooked every single event that I've had, and I think right now I think I got 11 that have been to every event I've ever had. And I got to give a shout out to Mike McElwaney. He's walked at every event I've ever put on.
Yeah, good old Mike. He was really excited this year too, wasn't he?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's excited always. But yeah, he's a great guy. He's a rep for us too. So
right.
it's
Yep.
always good to see Mike get to cook.
Yeah, and it's nice. I've kind of seen both sides of David Haskett. I worked with him in the front
Mhm.
end as a rep, and now he cooks. And I know the point of this call today is to maybe give some insight to other promoters. And if I could give any advice, is go cook some. You may not have a clue but go get a grill, go try to cook one, see how other people do things. You learn a lot. Some instances you learn what not to do, and
Yeah.
certain instances you're like, holy crap, that's a great idea. And if the biggest things that I could say is communication's got to be great. The more you put out there on Facebook world beforehand, the better. Let them know what you're doing, all the little extras. Because let's face it, most weekends cooks are choosing where they want to go.
Hmm.
Un- I will say unfortunately. Fortunately for me, some of them pass cooks on the way to me
Hmm.
hours away. They could stay home and cook, or they could drive 2 hours and cook. Some of them are driving 8 or 10 hours to cook. But for me, it's in a weekend event. It starts on Friday night. We're doing something typically on Friday. And if you're going to be a promoter that's continuously does an event, is you got to evolve. You got to change the way you do things. I started out with a single. I've done a triple. I've done doubles. I've done ancillary on Friday nights. And you just kind of got a feel for where the cook teams are. If you're early in the year, you may get a lot of people just because they want to cook. But if you're later in the year and people have their tickets, you got to give them a reason to come. And
Hmm.
the car show helps. The cornhole tournament helps. My music acts help. Just the camaraderie, the potlucks, the venue, all that matters.
That venue you have is a great venue. Do you rent that, or have you
Yes.
struck a deal with them on
As
something?
that the park I use is owned by the county in
Okay.
southeast Georgia. So yeah, I got a rental agreement. We rent it. I rent the whole campground that whole weekend. So basically, the cook teams come in. There's a little office uh, on site. They
Mhm.
go in there and pay. And I don't sell the campground spots. They handle all that themselves. But the Bells, Adam and Tammy that run that place, they've been a great asset for me in this event. This one this the year before last, they actually had some historic society folks come out and did a bunch of booths, and there was a lot of knowledge with the local Indian powwow groups, and it's made it into a whole where people just are sitting around their house on a Saturday like, hey, I'm gonna ride out here and see what's going on at the barbecue.
Yeah.
And I think this last year, just talking with the officers who were helping me with traffic and all, we probably had over 2,000 people enter the park that day, just
Wow.
being curious.
That's great. Yeah, you've got a good facility there. The judging area is great. It's enclosed. You enclose that actually for us, so
Right.
that helps so the teams can't see. But judging area is real important. Your lighting
Yep.
in there is good.
And one of the
Um,
things, judging there, the first year I had it, I didn't have any fans because it's covered with tarps enclosed. That way the cook teams can't be seen by the judges.
mhm.
But one thing I learned after the first year is fans. Then I learned, hey, let me bring in some bathrooms with air conditioning. So you learn a little bit every year. No matter how many times you do it, you're going to learn something different. I keep another thing. I keep in touch with my cook teams all year long, whether it's a text message, Facebook
Mhm.
message, or phone call. We all. I probably don't go a month or two without talking to most of them in some way or some fashion.
Well, a lot of them become your friends,
That
since
is
you've
correct.
started doing this, and you're
Yep.
just laying groundwork for later in the year, even.
Sure. And like yourself, I mean, on a whim, we text back and forth. It may be
Yeah.
a funny picture, but it's just keeping that open communication and let them know, hey,
Thinking
usually
about
about Christmas time, I'm reaching out to them saying, hey, I'm after the first of the year, be looking for my event on the calendar and find that weekend that nobody's got yet. And I feel bad because I seem to always, no matter when I put my event out there, it's always against Johnson City. Somehow
it.
I try to move it. They've beat me before. I've beat them, but there's a good group of people up there too. And
Sure.
it sucks feeling like you always are on the same weekend as somebody, but it's such a good time. It is a huge staple for me and our community. This event helps not only our whole program, but it really helps our underprivileged families be able to play football.
Hmm.
We sponsor, I'm going to say on average, 12 to 13 kids a year, and most of those funds come from my cook-off.
Wow. And tell us about your charity, because I know you have your own charity that you run.
Right. Again, the barbecue is in its fifth year, and it's gotten so big that I've actually turned it. We have turned the barbecue into its own charity. So not we're able to focus now not just on football, but other sports, other parts of our community, whether it be a $500 check to the local light company to help people who are delinquent. If a family gets in a tragic, has a tragic accident, we're able to help with some medical bills. Just whatever people need help in the community, we're there for them. We've also implemented 4 scholarships in our sports program with softball, baseball, cheer, and football. So we're able to give away $1,000 scholarship each. So we're giving back 4,000 in scholarships, and a lot of that money comes from this one event.
Wait, and how do you go about getting your raffle items? Because you've got a great raffle there. There's was it Milwaukee Tool Stop?
Yeah, I'm fortunate. I work in the electrical trade, so I got a lot
Okay.
of friends in good places. So I can go into Milwaukee and say, "Hey, I got a charity event coming up. What's new this year?" And it's the battery operated fans are always a hit for the cook teams.
Yeah.
Our generators are always a hit for cook teams, and we've done shotguns, we've done rifles. Just we got a good group of people in our community that's willing to help, and then to me, it's easy. I'm not the guy to walk in there and say, "Hey, could I get a check? Would you donate $100?" I'd rather them donate me a $40 item.
Mm-hmm.
I can make $2,000 off that $40 fan.
Yep.
If we sell raffle tickets all day. So just going to people saying, "Hey, we're doing this. Can I? We're taking donations of $50." Sometimes it's better to get items. Our local O'Reilly's, they always do. They donate a floor jack. We had a floor jack 2 years ago that made $1,000
On a floor jack.
Yeah, $30 jack. It's just everybody wanted it.
Everyone wanted
$2
it.
a
Yeah.
ticket, or 12 for 10 or whatever they're selling them for. It the roof. The money you can make in raffles if they're done right. I would say 85% of my profit of this whole thing I do comes from my raffles. And then I
teams
got,
support that.
we put certain banners on stage outside of yours,
Mm-hmm.
of the SCA world, your sponsors. They're our local sponsors, and they're there every year. I got it. I got SRM Concrete, which is a national company. They have an office here. I got a local concrete guy, Sloan's Concrete. They handle my stake bill every year. It doesn't matter if my stake bill is $1,000 or $7,000.
Yeah.
They help me with my stake bill. So as a new promoter, you got to know your break even point.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know what you got in it, how much the states cost, how much your trophies cost, your venue, and then you got your magic number to work. For me, when I break it down like that, if I don't have 25 teams, I don't make any money.
Right.
Now that I got my sponsors, that money's over here. That's what I would call my startup money. So fortunately, we're now blessed to be able to start an event with $10,000 to $15,000 in the bank. So we run the event, make our money back, and then what our profit is, that's what we distribute back to the community.
That's a good way to look at it too. Kind of your seed money get going. And unfortunately, there's some events where the promoter just fills his paperwork out and doesn't have seed money.
Sure.
I think if you're going to get started in this, you should have some seed money. Just, there's nothing worse than a cancellation for an event.
Sure.
But, I talk to cooks every week, and if they see a cancellation, they're hard pressed to support that event again.
Mm-hmm.
Unless Absolutely. It's a natural occurrence. We had COVID, we have weather situations, sure. But just to cancel at the end there, really, be prepared.
Yeah, man, I couldn't imagine having to cancel one. We were fortunate during COVID; we didn't stop. Outdoor venue, it worked great.
Yeah.
There were masks, there were glove rules. It was different, but we still had a good time. But to have an event that I work on hard, I'm stressed out clearly at the event, but the next week I'm back at it again. That's just, we enjoy it. My family enjoys it. and our community enjoys it. We're able to bring two communities together on different state lines. There's a river
Hmm.
that separates us, but our community goes with their community spend the money. We work together, and what's kind of cool about it is Charlton County, that Folkston area, they don't really have a youth football program. So a lot of their kids navigate to Hilliard. It's a 10-minute drive, but they're going to another state to play football. So we're able to give back to their community as well.
So some of the kids actually come from that other community.
Yep, they absolutely do.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Good deal. Well, I think you said it earlier, but if there's one piece of advice you could give a new promoter, what would it be?
Communication.
Hmm.
Take care of your judges. The judges are, to me, the most important part of this whole thing because without them, you don't have an event. No matter how many cook teams you got, if you don't have judges there, and judges are doing this on their own dime.
Hmm.
So you got to take care of them. It could be the smallest, mindless, thankless item. It could, I mean, I typically give my judges something. This
Hmm.
year it was fans, neck fans or fans. I've done engraved cups, gift cards, but look at my event I just threw out in November. If you look at it today, I got twice as many judges signed up right now that do cook teams.
Do you really?
Yeah, so
That's great.
um, but I would say is don't if you fold under pressure, don't be a promoter because
Yep.
the weirdest things can happen. I've had power outages at my events. I've had monsoons where all the power cords were floating in water. You just got to roll with the punches and keep on and it's always like anything really. It's the little things that matter.
Hmm.
Um, just having somebody there for them to talk to, a face with a name as a promoter. I run around. At my event. I run around in a tractor half the day picking up trash.
Yeah, you
You know,
do.
you take those times, ask the cook teams if they need anything. Some of them forget stuff. They don't have this. They don't have that. Hell, I've worked on when I went and cooked Brian's event in Madison this last year. Some
Hmm.
of the friends from North Carolina, they had electrical issue in their camper. Just able to jump out and help them real quick and fix it. If not, finding somebody that can fix it. Just letting the cook teams know that they're in good hands. They have no worries. They need anything, you're there for them. And then it pays back. It pays off because if I put an event out there, I have never been worried about not having enough teams to make it work.
And it's because you do run a great event that people sign up early. And there's a lot of events, honestly, the majority people don't sign up till the last 2 weeks. And it
Yeah,
is maddening for the promoters. It's maddening for us,
right. And
but
again, I've probably talked to 10 people in the last week who've told me they're coming, but they haven't signed up yet.
right.
So communication again. No,
Yeah.
you got to make contact with them because unfortunately there's some that they will sign up at the last minute. That's just
Yeah.
how they operate.
Well, some of the guys, they may be paycheck to paycheck or
Sure.
whatever the situation is. They may have
Hmm.
just went to a long distance event the week before. So,
And when now, man, fuel's expensive. It's a
mhm,
double, so
mhm.
it's
Oops,
I
sorry.
get it. I mean, I look at the calendar all the time and I'm busy. We're in football through
Hmm.
the end of October. Then you're in November and you're almost holiday season. So I got to kind of find the right one for me to go cook. But
Hmm.
I still make an effort to try to go cook one or two, or at least if they're local, I'll just show up. I'll show up, walk around.
Yep.
I'll get with the current promoter and say, hey, do you mind if I talk about my event while I'm here? That usually they don't mind. They'll give you the microphone at
Hmm.
awards and or the cook teams to say, hey, Hal's here. Don't forget about his event in June. And it's one big family. I mean, it's a competition in a sense, but it's not. I mean, everybody. No, I've never seen anybody get pissed off and walked out of a room because they didn't win. They're
No,
always
usually they're congratulating their buddies.
congratulating everybody, and
Yeah.
it's the same in the promoter world, in my opinion. I've put my name out there on Facebook a bunch, and I've taken a bunch of calls and a bunch of messages, and people ask about this. I'm always available. Um, I would be happy to help anybody that needs a hand in the promoter world.
Man, we appreciate you taking your time today. I know you're working today and
Yeah,
you've got football season. And so thanks for talking with us. This will really help new promoters. And that's really the goal of this series, is just to give them some ideas and things they haven't thought about.
right.